Hey, this is Steve. Thank you so much for registering in the course. I'm so excited you're here. I wanted to share a bit more of my story with you, just because it gives you a bit more of an understanding of where I've come from and how cancer has affected me and why I've created this course. So, I was diagnosed with colorectal cancer, stage 2, at the age of 46. We were living in Hawaii at the time, and that was really exciting for us because we have spent most of our life in Canada. And Canada's beautiful, absolutely love it. We do have minus 30 degree winters, which take a bit of adjustment. So living in Hawaii was wonderful. We went to Hawaii. My wife was going back to school to finish her degree, and our family was there. We have 11 kids in our family, big family, but we only had 8 with us in Hawaii. The older ones were on their own adventures. That's my ostomy bag. The oldest few were off on their own adventures, and we've been there almost a year and a half. We're just loving our experience there. I went to the doctor, and I had one symptom. It was blood in my stool. And I knew enough because I'd worked with nurses before not to take that lightly. When you have blood in your stool, there's lots of things it could be, but it's good to have it checked out. I'd never had a colonoscopy before, so sure enough, the doctor said, it's time for you to have a colonoscopy. And I'm grateful that I was put under. That's the only way to do it. When I woke up, the nurse said, they found a mass. And right away, those words had such a chilling effect. They found a mass. They had to send it off for biopsy, and that took a whole weekend. So you can imagine how restful and peaceful and relaxing that weekend was, right? Just waiting for the news. And then, we got called back into the doctor, and it's like, yeah, it's cancer. And now we need to do more testing to see if it's spread. And so they did more testing. It took a week or two to get those results back. And I think that was my introduction to hurry up and wait. It seems to be a lot of how the cancer healthcare system works. There's an urgency, but there's also lots of waiting. And as a patient, it's hard to go back and forth. I'm sure you've experienced that. We need a test, and now we have to wait for the test. Or you're diagnosed and there's surgery, but now we have to wait for the surgery. So hurry up and wait was the first lesson, and this is going to be stressful. And with my diagnosis, right away, the stress did kick in. For me, it was my anxiety thoughts, my what ifs. Our brain tends to default to worst case scenarios. It was, what if I die? What if I survive, but I'm never able to work again? What if we have to? There's so many different questions. If I die, what happens to our kids? If I die, what happens to my wife? If I die, what happens to my family? My parents are both alive. All these questions. And so to help with my anxiety, I walked every single day. And the walking grounded me, literally, kept me feet on the ground, but also gave me time to process what was going on in my head. My fears, and all my fears were tied back to insecurities, doubts, experiences. They came from within me. Right? They weren't foreign, from somewhere else. And so I was working at the time, and I remember getting some good advice from a close relative who was also dealing with cancer, and it was healthy eating is really important, physical activity is really important, don't stress, the biggest thing. And one day at work, I was just like, I can't do this. I can't work and figure out how to be a cancer patient, and above all, not stress about any of it. So I was blessed in the sense that my work had disability benefits, so I went on disability. It's the first time in my life I'd ever done something like that. But in hindsight, it was the best thing I did, because it gave me the space where I could be Steve, where I could be sick, and I could work on my cancer journey without the added stress of having to figure out work. And so I did my best to do healthy eating. I went to Whole Foods and shopped organic, and then decided I couldn't because it was too expensive. So I did my best to eat healthy, more fruits, more vegetables, less sugar. There were some tweaks in my diet. It wasn't a drastic rewrite of my diet. It was just some tweaks, things I could do better. I did my best to continue to be active. Luckily I was in a community where I was able to play basketball and do other things where I could keep active. And then working on the stress, that was the hardest part. I'll say this over and over and over again. The hardest part of cancer isn't the cancer. It's the mental and emotional ups and downs. It's the stress, anxiety, fear, grief, loneliness, all of these things. It's the hardest part of cancer. It's the game in here and in here that happens when we have cancer. So every day every day I started working on my stress and my anxiety. I did my best to have a positive mindset in the morning, to have the gratitudes, and we'll talk about those. Even my chemotherapy pills, I was grateful for them before I swallowed them, because I didn't want my body to fight them. I wanted my body to receive them and let them do their work. And so it turns out, even though surgery was the first recommendation, it wasn't the first step in my healthcare treatment. Because of where my tumor was located, they needed to do radiation and chemotherapy first to shrink it. Because doing the surgery first had a risk of permanent damage to the sphincter muscles, which would mean loss of bowel function. So I did 25 radiation treatments every day for a month and a half. It was an hour drive in radiation and an hour drive out. And then I was taking 7 chemo pills every day as well, like 4 in the morning and 3 in the evening, I think. Maybe it was vice versa. The radiation worked very well. It shrunk the tumor. There were some side effects to radiation, the burning, the broken glass feeling. If you've had radiation, you know what I'm talking about. It wasn't fun. A lot of fatigue, a lot of slow days, as I learned to call them. Not bad days, but slow days. And we'll come to that too. And then after the radiation, they give you a month or 2 to heal before surgery. So we had to go back to Canada. My health insurance ran out, so went back to Canada. I did my surgery. I was given an ostomy. This is right here. And the ostomy is temporary. I have a surgery date booked in a few weeks to reverse it, which I'm looking forward to. I'm also a little stressed out about, because the stress, these are things I do still, these tools and techniques, because the stress doesn't go away. Right? The cancer journey continues. Cancer journey in many ways will continue the rest of my life. For the rest of my life, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a cancer patient. I'm a cancer survivor. And the fear of reoccurrence is real. The changes that come after cancer are real too. So I did my surgery. I was in the hospital for 15 days. Then I was sent home. Turns out I'd picked up a few souvenirs from the hospital, so I had to go back a month later. I had pneumonia and blood clots in my lungs. I also had a pulmonary embolism. And the way they describe my lungs, it's like you had a lung attack. There was a part of your lung that died. And that made sense because I was out of breath so fast. If I even went walking or did something simple, I was just out of breath so quickly. And like, you had a lung attack, but it's been getting better over time. So it's maybe the longest, slowest part of my healing will be my lungs, not my cancer. It's something I picked up in the hospital. So my cancer journey, it's been a year and a half. Or more, a little over a year and a half, and it continues. I've got my surgery coming up. Hopefully that's my last surgery, if everything goes well. And then I'll be doing surveillance, just make sure there's no reoccurrence of the cancer, for a few years. So with all that said, as I said before, the hardest part of my cancer journey, and the hardest part for everyone I've talked to, when I say this, they nod and they go, absolutely. Right? The hardest part isn't the cancer, it's the stress that comes with the cancer. And that's why I've created this program. It's full of tools and techniques that you can use to help you every day to lower your stress and anxiety and your fear. And I use them every day. I will use them every day probably for the rest of my life because they work. They're powerful. I can't imagine how stressful my journey would have been without them. It was stressful enough. And it doesn't mean we won't have hard days when we understand these tools and use them. I still have hard days. But now I have tools that help me understand what's going on and help me understand how to work through it, right, and get to the other side. And on the other side, there's space for happiness, joy, love, peace, or just freedom, the things that we really value in life. And they come on the other side of working through our stress and anxiety and fear. So I'm excited you're here. This course covers a lot of material, but it's good stuff. There are things I do every single day. The things I'll do every single day for the rest of my life, the things I hope you can incorporate into your life that will help you with your stress and anxiety and fear for the rest of your life or as long as you need it. So down below this video, you'll see a place to download the workbook. This is the workbook. It's a workbook that accompanies all the material you'll find in this course. So download it, and if you prefer, you can print it off or you can follow along on screen. And then there's also a link below to start the course itself. So I look forward to seeing you inside.